Hey, let's slide over to what we saw in boxing this weekend from Frisco, Texas. DAZN had a card headlined by Mikey Garcia doubling down on his goal to make it as an elite welterweight 11 months removed from his last fight, a one-sided shellacking against Errol Spence Jr. on pay-per-view. Mikey goes in there against tested veteran Jessie Vargas, a former two-division title holder, and comes away with a unanimous decision that, Chuck, was weird. It was closer than the fight looked, or maybe than it should have been. Yet Mikey was clearly the dominant fighter here, establishing himself as a hard counterpuncher. In your eyes moving forward, he's won titles in 4 weight classes. He's one of the pound-for-pound best. Is Mikey Garcia an elite welterweight?
Elite? No, I would not say that. I still think that the elite welterweights would beat him right now. But obviously his whole task in this one, right, was to show that he could do that, especially after the last fight. I think he did look, outside the overmatched. He never really competed in that fight. I thought that this one, it took him a few rounds to kind of get rolling, but it seemed like once he did, it was like you could see him come to life in that fight. And especially after the knockdown, I felt like, he kind of, I don't want to say coasted, but he was landing those 1-2s, man, and it looked kind of like more like the vintage guy. His power is still showing up in there a little bit. I mean to me, man, it still seemed like he had it. I just don't know. It still feels like he's masquerading a little bit. I know the money is there, but it feels like he's masquerading.
You love his dare to be great intention. You love the fact that he took on that Spence fight when people in his own family, his older brother, his trainer Robert, was like, don't do this. It didn't go well. It didn't go well at all. He said he sort of rebuilt his body, and he looked better physically. He looked a little bit more muscular, but here's the thing that's tough. He took damage to have to win this fight, even though he largely controlled it. He's probably going to have to consistently take damage at this weight class to win these very big fights. And you got to ask yourself, is the pursuit of a 5th title in as many weight classes for a guy who's not about the money, has been all about getting that promotional control over his career? Don't forget, he sat out 2.5 years of his prime to get out of his top-ranked deal. He's signing 1-fight deals at a time. That was a 1-fight deal with DAZN for options for the next one. We'll get to that option in a second of what it could be. But here's a guy who just recently was making 135 and was a killer at lightweight. And if you're a guy who relies on counterpunching and technique, and you're entering into fights in which you're going to have to take heavy damage to win, that's where you sort of go, is this the right move? Because 135 is loaded in boxing right now. And the idea of Mikey Garcia against Lomachenko is a super fight waiting to happen, against Teofimo Lopez, who's getting the next Loma fight, against the Devin Haney's, the other guys who are on the rise. Certainly there are 140. He's got plenty of options, but he's a stubborn dude. Did you think Vargas had a case afterwards to say he should have won it? I saw some hipsters on the internet kind of having that as a 7-5 fight for Garcia. I get where Vargas never gave up and came back. Boxing scoring is weird, though, because what you see with your eyes can be different from the math, how it adds up.
I kind of went back and watched it again, like just kind of seeing that, because I saw a little bit of that online, I don't see that. I don't see that. I thought it was pretty, after I'd say what, 5th round on? From 5th round on, it felt like it was, the fight had turned, the tide had turned, and it kind of just went that direction. I don't know. To me, that's like, the 116, 111 scores was in the range that I would have had. So it didn't seem that close to me. I was kind of surprised that they talked about it.
I mean, his power, the pluses here is that Mikey showed legit counterpunching power. He had Vargas on the verge of being stopped on, I think, 3 occasions. Credit to Vargas for gutting that out. Now, the big story here is what happens next. Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Sport and DAZN have an option to match on his next fight. And the whole idea of bringing Mikey Garcia to DAZN for a $7 million payday, by the way, shout out to Mikey Garcia there, is to set him up for a big fight, ideally Manny Pacquiao. Now, the problem with that, Chuck, is that, as Eddie Hearn told me last week, there's 174 people who think they own managerial rights or some type of promotional rights on Manny Pacquiao. We were of the belief in the last 6 months, ever since Pacquiao last summer beat Keith Thurman in a fantastic pay-per-view main event, that Pacquiao had 1, maybe 2 fights left on his PBC deal. Eddie Hearn's now saying, from what he has heard and believes, that would be no fights left. And we just recently saw, of course, Manny Pacquiao signed with Paradigm Sport, Audiatar, the same managerial agency that has, what, Conor McGregor. You used to have Tony Ferguson, right? Adesanya.
Adesanya.
Big names
a lot. I mean, a lot of the big UFC people.
Would Mikey Garcia versus Manny Pacquiao this summer, maybe July in Saudi Arabia, and by the way, you better get the air conditioning pumping if that's the case. Does that move you? Would you be in for that?
It would. I would like to see it. I honestly would. I mean, obviously Pacquiao, what is he, 41 or 42 years
41.
old? He's 41 years old, but if the Thurman fight told you anything, he's still got his speed, he's still got his power.
As long as he's passing drug tests, I guess we got to applaud him, because that was an insane turn back the clock performance.
Fix his tax issues going over Saudi Arabia. I would like to see it, man. I would like to see it.
I mean,
look,
look,
what else are you going to do if Garcia wants to stay at 147? I feel like I want to see him in fights like that.
Yeah.
That's the fight you want to see.
Jay, I've got static like you would not believe in my ear right now. Okay, just is my lapel good? Okay, we'll roll on. Let me know when it stops. It's an interesting fight to make. Manny can pretty much do whatever he wants, and if somebody in Saudi is going to throw a buttload of money at Eddie Hearn and they can make that work, it would seem like a resting spot. It's an interesting fight. Would I love Manny against Errol Spence to find out how great he can still be at this age? Yes. Danny Garcia, yes, but I'll take Mikey Garcia if it ends up going in that direction. But just weird how Manny Pacquiao can still be at this point in his career. Everybody thinks they own him or have some pull with him, but hey,